podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to your post-match Raw here on Anfield Index Pro, podcasting to you from my field here in beautiful rural Ireland. I'm Trev Downey, and joining me to give their immediate thoughts on Liverpool 5, Norwich 2 in the FA Cup from Anfield are Harry Sethi and Karl Matchett. And Harry, it was always going to be a massive occasion. The atmosphere was always going to be pretty electric, pretty jumping. There was always going to be a lot of sentimentality floating around. Yeah. It was always then a matter of whether or not the performance and result would match. There's a lot of pressure on each one of these Anfield games now. I'm going to be part of the tension in the next one, but at least they certainly delivered today. Everybody, fans, players, management decisions. I thought the whole lot was fantastic, a real triumph.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of the broader context of obviously yesterday's news and the decision Jürgen's made, I think everyone's going through it in a different way. Everyone's having different reactions. We had quite a cathartic chat yesterday. I felt in the end. Actually, I think today I'm more sad. So we'll see how it changes. I'm sure it will go in waves and fluctuate throughout the rest of the season. I think it's just natural. But in terms of the sort of reaction you would have wanted to see to that news in terms of the quality of the performance, the quality in terms of the aptitude and the effort levels of that performance. I thought it was a really emphatically positive afternoon, to be honest, in terms of both how the team played, especially with the changes, and the three real youngsters in that side, perhaps a couple more who we regard as senior players now, but who are still very young. They all played really well. Of course, some had probably stronger games than others, but in terms of the changes, I thought they applied themselves really nicely. And I think, Jürgen's song ringing out barely 60 seconds into the game, I think it was. I don't think he's able to complain about that now until the end of the season. I think he's going to have to bite his lip on that. But I think it was to be expected. And goals for the people you want to see scoring goals in Darwin and that shark Jota again, and also I think Gravenberch as well, a much needed goal. And I think if there was a period in the game that it started to lull a little bit, as you see in cup games, and maybe our minds drifted back to the fact that guy in the dugout's not going to be here at the end of the season. You were lifted again by the sort of the sight of those players, those first teamers returning to action into the Szoboszlai, Trent, and of course Robbo as well. So I think if Jürgen could have written a version of a game you wanted to see, a performance you wanted to see, I think this would have been pretty close to it. I'm sure a clean sheet would have been in there as well, but we'll come on to talk about that. Otherwise, I thought it was a really, really positive performance.
That's the thing, isn't it, Karl? In the circumstances, there was always going to be a hefty, whether some of us like to engage in that or not, a hefty emotional sort of aspect to this game, and it was then about managing that. And I think that is going to be a white knuckle ride between now and the end of the season, managing that excess of emotion that we can absolutely expect to come from everybody, including Klopp, the players, and the fans in the stadium. So it is a matter of funneling that in a way that is constructive and positive And it's great when things are going right and we can all enjoy the constant urging of Joe Gomez to shoot and so on and so forth. The test will come when it is probably tougher opposition and maybe things are going not necessarily the way of Liverpool Football Club. That remains to be seen. I remain optimistic about those things all coming in together to work in the club's favour between now and the end of the season. I didn't really get a chance to speak to you in the wake of the Klopp news, but I do think overall it will have a net positive effect in the pursuit of the 4 trophies that remain. But like Harry says, an awful lot of things came together there. It was lovely to see young McConnell start and be so central in the performance. The lovely step inside and curl the ball forward to give an assist to Curtis was obviously the emblematic part of it, but he was involved. Bradley, honest to God, this kid looks as though he's to the manner born. And, you know, we had lots of other people pulling up trees as well. Jarell Quansah, we take him for granted now. We take Curtis Jones for granted now. And yet we shouldn't, because these are still in comparatively early days in their careers, well, certainly with the case of Quansah. So there was a lot to enjoy. And then you roll in the return of the big names. So it overall it was an afternoon to really savour, I thought.
Yeah, I thought so. Karl, what do you think?
Yeah, it was completely agree. Really, really good afternoon all around. Obviously, you can, if you're the coaching type, you can pick out anything you want to improve on, like clean sheets and a few errors in possession or whatever. But look, from young kids playing to returning faces to some really, really good form from people that we need to step up at the minute. I'm looking here at like people like Diogo Jota and Darwin Nunez, for example, with Salah out and or injured, whichever one you want to be the one which affects us at the minute. Just a lot of things that we need to be happening right before we go back into a really important period against really big opposition. And it does seem to be mostly all happening for us there. I think sometimes we can not overlook important things or small important things, but take for granted that bad things happen to us at bad times. And maybe this time, like the injuries that we got, the absences that a few players have had over the last month haven't necessarily come at the worst period of the season this time. And maybe this time it's kind of just coming together like quite nicely for us, let's say, at this point of the campaign.
Karl, stay with me as we go and have a quick look at the Liverpool team and the Norwich team. I'll let both of you respond to both of them in a way that we don't normally do. We just crammed this section into a smaller period today because Klopp went quite strong and yet managed to include, like I said, the aforementioned nippers. It was Alisson, Conor Bradley at right back, Konate and Quansah, and then Gomez, the far side at left back. We had Ryan Gravenberch, James McConnell and Curtis Jones in a interesting looking midfield in inverted commas, and then Cody Gakpo, Nunez and Diogo Jota up top. It's where when we look at the bench that we start to get a little bit of feel heartened. We have Virgil van Dijk on there alongside Queven Keller, Luis Diaz, obviously Dom Szoboszlai, Harvey Elliott, Andy Robertson. That's going to make anyone feel a hell of a lot better. And then you look at Clark and Beck and you think, oh, it's trailing away, only to find Trent Alexander-Arnold popping up at the end of that list. It is heartening. As you said, it's going to be a very difficult period starting Wednesday night with Chelsea, then Arsenal and so on. And now we do have the added complication stroke joy of another FA Cup game, a home draw fashioned for us by the genius of Glenn Johnson against Southampton or Watford. So that's that. And then if we have a look quickly at Norwich, and feel free to say whatever you want to say about that lineup today for Liverpool. I always feel like it's a difficult ask for a club who's bombing along in their league, and they have to come up against top end opposition like us who have gears to go through and players to throw at the wall if everything's going wrong. It's tough to know how they're going to go. They went with Long, Stacey, Hanley, Gibson, McCallum, Fastnacht, Sarah, McLean, Hernandez, Nunez and Ashley Barnes up top. I think some people may query, I know certainly the commentary team and also, I think the post-match crew of Ian Wright and Robbie Fowler were a little bit confused of why he took off Ashley Barnes when he did. But the subs that came on did well, and Science in particular scored a worldie and was involved almost immediately afterwards. These are a very solid-looking squad that you wouldn't be surprised to be worrying Premier League football again quite soon, I would have thought. So, first of all, your reaction to the Liverpool setup, and then if and anything you want to mention about Norwich, please do.
I wasn't too surprised at much of the Liverpool lineup. The only thing I was expecting is Robertson to start, probably, just because he was on the bench last time, so it suggested he was quite close. So I thought maybe he would be in the lineup. Apart from that, all fine with the rest of it. McConnell, this is the deepest that I've seen him play. Actually, I don't know if he's played there as the 6 too often for the 21s, but this was quite a nice change to see him sort of be able to get on the ball a little bit more space and time, perhaps. Though he did all right. My only wondering at this point is, like, our fullbacks who again started the game here, Bradley and Gomez, have probably been our best players over the last sort of 3 matches or so, something like that. So now that the other two, the starting two, are back, I wonder how quickly he is tempted to change them, or whether there'll be some kind of mini rotation to keep one of them at least in the lineup, because it would be deserved, let's be honest. For Norwich, I kind of have a little bit of sympathy here, because, like you say, they need to be really good to get any chance of going through, or at least getting a draw in the game. But even though they've not been tremendous this season, the Championship is so stupidly tight again in that league that even though they're 9th, which doesn't sound superb, there's like 5 points between 5th and 12th in the Championship. So Norwich are only like 2 points outside the playoffs at the minute, so they probably do need to, let's say, keep more than one eye on their availability and their fitness and everything else of their main players, their key players for that league. And there are obviously many more games in that league as well than we play in the Premier League. So minutes and rotation and fatigue and all the rest of it is a big deal. They play Coventry next, who are 6th and in the promotion places at the minute. So again, I can understand the changes that they did make.
Harry, to give you a spin, talking about both lineups as well, I guess as Karl says, it's probably maybe not as fascinating a chat as you might think to consider that Liverpool went comparatively strong, with the exception of the obvious 2 youngsters in there. But when you consider that Bradley was almost there by default, it's really only one position that he's experimenting with, and the rest of it is just about squad rotation, getting minutes into legs. It's still strong. It's still a strong looking lineup. So I don't know how much there is to say about that. And I think the bench is strong by dint of the fact that we have people coming back from being unavailable. That in and of itself is a wonderful thing. We did kind of need the introduction of it to really cement the deal later on today. And just your take on Norwich in terms of what they offered. Again, Ian Wright, Robbie Fowler, both very disappointed in what they saw from Norwich in terms of what they were offering in attack. And even the commentary team I was watching on Premier Sports, so I'm not really sure who the commentary team are there, but they were again sort of lacking in too much enthusiasm, because there wasn't a lot to be enthusiastic about in terms of positive Norwich play. They were clearly waiting to see if they could catch us with half the team upfield and counter attack.
Yeah, I think it's fair enough. I think I probably share Karl's view on this, and what do you really expect them to do, to be honest, with some of the absences, given the situation in the league at the moment for them, given the fact they've got Ashley Barnes up front. I mean, you're not really expecting them to do too much against a Liverpool side that's top of the league and flying, even a heavily rotated one, and full of emotion as well, right after yesterday's news. I thought they were lively. I'd be interested to see the running stats or something like that, because I thought they applied themselves throughout the entire game. I don't think you could necessarily say there was a lack of effort. I think the lack of quality at times in terms of their passing, and I think the least you need to do when you're playing against a Liverpool side that presses this well again is ensure that you're passing crisp and tight, and there were far too many loose passes that in transition just really kill you. I mean, especially with the players that are out there for Liverpool today, they looked hungry, the pressing was good, and you just can't afford to cough up possession in the way in which they did. But I thought there were some lively moments, and I think there's clearly some talent there amongst the squad. But I wouldn't be expecting Norwich to come to Anfield and to pull up any trees. It's been a while since I've spoken to sort of the usual sort of Norwich journalists or contacts I had on for Rival Recon, obviously. But I think I still follow them, and I still see their posts come up on occasion. They've been very unhappy this season, to be honest, for large stretches of it, and so I think it's a rebuild job, and I wasn't expecting too much more from them. I don't think there's any great insight from the lineup. Just again, nice to see, I guess, Klopp's was it Klopp's best man on the touchline as well with him, which is always fun. In terms of the Liverpool squad, I think you're right, in that we've got to this stage now where not a lot of questions, not a lot of surprises there. Maybe the only real interesting choice was that of McConnell in midfield. I think what is more interesting, and we're on that topic now, given this the context of transition and the context of where Klopp is leaving us and sort of what he's leaving us with. And I have to say, you go through it and you got Conor Bradley 20, Ibu Konate 24, Quansah 20, Gravenberch 21, McConnell 19, Jones 22. Jota's a bit older. Darwin 24, even Gakpo 24. That's a young group of players. Yes, there's some senior figures in there who help to balance things out. We saw more of them come on later on in the game, but I just think it shows really that yes, cup game against lower league opposition, but the way in which we've gotten used to seeing some of these players play quite regularly of late, out of necessity, yes, but they've come in, they've applied themselves well. I think you were talking about it, Trev. Quansah, we barely even acknowledge it from times in terms of sort of how this 20-year-old is just coming in and doing his best Van Dijk impression in terms of the composure. I think it's just really, it's a nice, exciting thing to see a team that we can put out that's this young and yet applies itself in exactly the way you'd want it to.
Can I ask you something, because it just goes back to something you said earlier on, and it's relevant, and it's obviously the first game after the news, so therefore it's relevant. Yeah. It's not a topic I have any interest in continuing with. I think as part of post-match shows, we, like you say, we jumped on, we did our chat, and Dave and Karl had done theirs earlier on in the day, and it's a thing that you react to, and that's what the atypical Raw was about. You react to this news because it's seismic, but it's not a thing that we can carry throughout the season. Obviously, it's there as context all the time. You're not going to be not able to refer to it. But I guess, the reason I just wanted to bring it up quickly there is it's still quite raw with a lot of people, and it does sort of affect how you perceive things, for sure, and possibly depending on your personality type, it's going to emphasize your pessimism or trigger your your reactive optimism. So I suppose the thing about it is it doesn't really matter, and most people are going to end up upbeat if that is the result that we see on the pitch, because we could be playing against very top level opposition today and you felt as if there were gears to go up. There was football being played there that could pull apart any team. It was encouraging, I guess, Harry, is what I'm saying. And I thought there was a sort of it didn't feel like we're in some sort of theatrical piece. It felt very much as we're continuing, there is a job very much to be done. That is absolutely the message from the players, every one of them that I've heard interviewed, pre and post match, and that's, like I said, that's very heartening, because it feels as if everybody's on board now. This is the thing that's ahead of us. It's X amount. Nobody's changed. Jürgen hasn't lost any authority. The players don't want to play for any less. If anything, it seems to have lit a fire under them.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, I sort of mentioned at the start that, I think it's how we react to that wider context of Jürgen's departure is going to fluctuate throughout the season. And I think I was speaking to you, Trev, about how, if anything, my concern is that the closer it gets to that crescendo, that the emotion might become somewhat overwhelming. But I think, the way in which they reacted today, I think is exactly the reaction that Klopp would have wanted to see. And that context, at the end of a game like this, at the end of a performance like this, you see him sitting there, clearly a sort of a grin of admiration at the team and what they've done. And I suppose you can sort of on a day like today, you can sit there and go, well, I guess you're right. You're leaving us in a great place with that's a much changed team there, but one that shows you all the promise that exists amongst the squad that's there to be tapped into by whoever comes next. And the more of these afternoons, the better, because this definitely does, lean into his perspective that, it's not like Ferguson, it's not like Wenger. I'm not leaving you in the lurch. I'm not being sacked because things have gone terribly. I've built these foundations and I'm showing you these green shoots that are there that will continue to grow even after I'm gone. So I think it's a positive one. I know that this documentary is going to happen with Jürgen, I think for the final 3 games apparently. I don't know how I feel about that personally, but this would be a good episode, right, for justifying his view of where the club finds itself at the moment.
Yeah, I'm fucking dreading that myself. Absolutely fucking dreading it. What a terrible decision that was. Whoever made that call, absolutely brutal decision. I'm furious about it.
Hopefully we're 10 points clear, Trevor.
It's literally the only way that can be enjoyable is if everything that's cringy in it won't matter a damn. And like you say, the only measure on of all the things we're saying here is far more than a modicum of success come the end of the season. So we keep our fingers crossed about that. And Karl, if we look at the first 21 minutes together, you and I, which brings us up to 1-1, it's comical how much the game is being dominated by Liverpool. Joe Gomez has a shot in 4 minutes, because of course he does, after great possession play by us, led to a corner from which nothing accrued. And then on 7, another great bit of possession football ended with a Cody Gakpo half volley, which is miles over the top. On 10, Darwin intercepted a ball over on the left hand side. He took on a shot just outside the box and curled it. It smacks off the post, having been hit from distance, and things are up and bubbling and flying. Cody has another poor kind of shot cross thing when he cuts in from the left again on 11 minutes, and kind of curls it hopelessly nowhere. And then 13, a great ball in from Jota on the left hand side, and Darwin Nunez sliding at the back post, can't quite get there. We are absolutely on top when on 15 minutes Curtis does put us ahead. It's McConnell who, over on the far side, on the right hand side, steps in towards midfield a little bit and curls an in-swing ball with his left foot to the back post, where Curtis is there to nod across the face and inside the far post. It's the definition of simplicity, beautifully tucked away, great assist by the kid, just looks so mature and composed and poised. Following up immediately afterwards, we saw a great ball by the other kid on the team, Bradley, on the right on 17 minutes. McConnell comes in with a sliding tackle on 19 minutes, and Anfield absolutely loves it. He was doing a few of those and possibly got away with 1 or 2 studs up ones towards the end, just before he went off after it looked like cramp. And then on 21 minutes, from nowhere, Gibson puts them 1-1, where the first attempt they have on goal, the first real chance they have to attack, it is a corner. When we weren't under tremendous pressure, the corner was conceded anyway, and it comes in, and it's met by what looked like a combination of his upper back and shoulder, and sort of beats Ali because he's no idea where it's going to go. It just basically comes off him. I'm not saying he didn't intend to throw himself towards the ball, but it did have that feel of massive fortune about it. In terms of those opening 20 minutes where we were so dominant, is there anything you want to pick out, any person in particular you thought you were looking at quite closely there, or admiring, or the opposite?
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
No.
Thanks, Karl.
I think, first of all, up until that point, like, dominance doesn't even come into it. You know, by the time they won the corner for the equaliser, like, they hadn't had a shot at that point, not even like a speculative blocked shot at that point. I think that was their second corner of the game that they'd won. It was about the first meaningful attack where they got sort of three players into the final third. So it was like complete one-way traffic up until that point. And I mean, you can, if you really wanted to and you wanted to damage your own brain a little bit, you could speculate about how we might have reacted to that given the context of all around the match going into it if we hadn't have scored the opener. Like, if that had just been their first attack and they scored the opener, it could have been a bit weird and a bit different, you know, but we completely obviously deserved to be in front anyway. And I don't think that there was any semblance of, not even panic, but just like not even like that's not even a setback when Norwich scored, to be honest. We just carried on doing our thing. And I think that was the most important and probably most impressive aspect, not just of this part of the game, but of what this team is right now. Like, any setbacks we get in terms of conceding goals or missing chances, we just keep doing things the same way. And, you know, it feeds a little bit into what Klopp is saying in terms of the team's really set and there's so much potential and they know what they're doing anyway. As to why we should have, you know, optimism for the future. Like you say, it doesn't have to be wanton and just assuming optimism, but reason for it. And when we see a team like this today, like, if you'd have told anybody at all, like, at some point this season, our back four is going to include Connor Bradley, Jarell Quansah and Joe Gomez at left back, I'd probably be willing to bet they didn't even maybe know who Quansah was, unless they were, you know, a regular watcher of the youth teams, that sort of thing. That's how far this team has come. Like, the people who are coming in, the kids who are coming in, are not just good enough, but are so settled in the way that we play and the build-up fashions that we have, the connections and where they're supposed to run and when they're supposed to trigger press and everything. Everything is just so ingrained in these players. And when we do make quite a number of changes in the team, this is always my favourite thing to see. Who does the automatic runs? Who plays in the exact same way? Who doesn't, obviously? Who makes moves break down when they're done in the exact same way as always, but it's just somebody else instead of Trent making the pass, or somebody else instead of Salah making the run, which players have not quite got on the wavelength to do all the repetitions. So first 20 minutes or so, McConnell really good at that. Bradley has been excellent at that recently, but again, very good in the opening period. Probably not going to pick out the ones who didn't, to be perfectly honest. We might as well just keep this one positive because it was, like we said, a really good day all around. And Curtis Jones's goal, it's just a really good thing to see every single time when we consider how many seasons we did go through wanting more from midfield and wanting to see those number eights get a bit more into the box and have a bit more impact and all the rest of it. To see Jones now doing it with such regularity and that kind of goal, exactly like that goal that he's just scored, was very, very similar to, let's say, was it Ajax he scored against a couple of seasons back? It's basically the same sort of goal, you know, running into the far post like that. And he's doing it over and over and over now with a lot more consistency. And like I say, whoever is playing just knows who's going to be making the run, where it's going to be going to, and we're good enough technically to execute it.
On that point of systems, let me ask you a question here, because I remember back when, that's a really good point you make, by the way. If anyone had just floated that out, that at this stage of the season, that would be the back four. If someone had mentioned that in August, I think there would have been, you know, the place would have been burning by the end of the conversation. That's how hair trigger rather everybody's emotions seem to be at the moment. I made some sort of throwaway comment there today and the day before. Don't do that on Twitter if you're a gentle person, if you're of a gentle persuasion. Mine today was just about Gravenberch falling over a lot, and then he had scored, and I quote tweeted my own thing where I said he was falling over a lot, and said, "Oh, and he does that then, fantastic." In other words, we can all laugh at ourselves, and it's nice to see. But I've got all these po-faced individuals coming out saying, "Oh, he's just a kid. I mean, come on." And it just, this kind of, I don't know where they go or what their point is or how they're reacting, but there they are. That bundle are always there. Those people would have been the very first people who would have said Joe Gomez at left back is a terrible idea. Back when I was worried that I was going full galaxy brain, when I was thinking it might be a good idea, immediately when Robbo went out. The lad has gone on to be excellent wherever. But here's what I wanted to talk to you about in a very roundabout way. I'm getting to it. What did you make of inverted Joe? Because he spent most of the game hanging around there as the nominal fullback who does that thing. It wasn't Bradley. Bradley played in a far more traditional way. I thought it was Joe who was floating about in the midfield area. Joe was the one that appeared who had that role.
I mean, Joe did it from the right-hand side when Trent was out, so I guess it's a little bit more, I'm not going to say natural because it's definitely not natural, but at least he's had a few more games at it. He's had a bit more match practice at doing that exact tactical tweak, let's say. And obviously playing from the left coming in field means he's naturally onto his right foot, which is a little bit more comfortable for Gomez again. It probably would have made more sense to me in this particular game if Diaz had started, let's say, because he holds the width so much compared to the other forwards who play down the left-hand side. But at the same time, we were always likely to have so much control and so much possession that what we want there is that extra body. And I don't think that Gomez was so much doing the central midfield inversion so much as being the recycling person from that point of the pitch, sort of that channel, let's say, because it was so high upfield, because our dominance was so complete and extraordinarily consistent for most of that first half at the very least. That did mean that he always had to be in that position anyway to allow either the overlap or the runner into the box, or just to be able to reset it and go back out to the right hand side then. So kind of a natural role for him to pick up. And again, he is always going to close body and therefore be a little bit more central because he wants to be on his right foot. But maybe also about 50 of his family members have now got 20 grand on him to score this season, so he's probably for that.
Yeah, I will hold my hands up and say that I could feel my brain crunching as I was trying to discern the difference between what I was floating out as my theory and the way that you were explaining it. It's not that I couldn't follow what you were saying, it's just I would have thought they were the very traits of what the inverted fullback was about, but I fully do understand what you're saying. It's just the complexity of the tactics, as ever, is best left to someone more nuanced like yourself. And Harry, if we take it on from this point, it is quite interesting to see what happens. The rest of the half, and we are only less than halfway through it at that point when it's 1-1. The rest of the half is quite interesting. It is mostly the Reds being very good, but there's not a huge amount of incident. Let's just talk through what's left of that half, and then you can flash back and recap anything from the first period or any particular player you'd like to single out in terms of some attention or discussion, because it doesn't stay 1-1 for long. I think it's 6 minutes afterwards where Darwin puts us 2-1 ahead, and Bradley does fantastically, absolutely fantastically. He wins the ball over on his byline in our half with a kind of manoeuvre that was patented by the now very controversial Jose Enrique back in the day, where he basically won the ball with the outside of his foot and turned away, kind of Thiago style, and back in field and charged forward, plays a fantastic 1-2, takes the ball in stride, feeds a beautiful ball into the path of Darwin Nunez, who controls and finishes, touch and finish, just with absolute aplomb, perfect expertise across the face of the keeper into the far corner. It's delightful. It is a lovely, lovely goal. Absolutely instigated by what my mate Chris from the Empire podcast is calling the greatest living Northern Irishman. Fair play to him. I think that hashtag may last. I've got nothing but time for that, because he deserves all the praise in the world here. We'll come back. I'll let you come back to talk about the goal in a second. Just to finish out the half in terms of incident, Bradley's involved again on the half-hour mark. A brilliant ball forward to him. I think it was by Gomez. He's at full stretch, Bradley, and he does brilliantly to get a foot to it and angle it back towards Cody Gakpo, who inexplicably misses in the central area. Gravenberch has a really tame effort in 31. Cody again on 37. He drags one wide on the swivel, wide of the left-hand post low. Quansah and Ibu are knocking headers and volleys as they retreat on 39 minutes to each other. It was lovely to watch. Almost borderline taking the piss. Then there was a header on target from a free kick and a cross comfortably taken by Ali on 45, so they could register something by way of attack. And in the 2 minutes that were added, nothing occurred of note. So in terms of that first half assessment, maybe you could focus your attention at some point on Cody Gakpo, because I think he'll get lost between the cracks otherwise in terms of what you thought of him. And I don't know if this is the time or you want to talk about Gravenberch later on in the wake of his goal. Maybe we should do that for all the delicate flowers out there who may feel that we're being mean.
Yeah, no, I'll talk about Grav later. I thought Gakpo, kept trying for the whole of the game. Obviously, we talk about the first half here. Neat and tidy in places, trying to put things together, lacking that real sort of edge to his game that was going to result in either sort of a real vital pass or a goal for himself. Obviously, we've seen him be actually quite good with some of those swiveled finishes in the past, and he clearly does strike a ball very well in terms of his sort of technique. So yeah, a little bit disappointing for him in terms of sort of things being slightly messy for him in that half. But I thought in terms of application, you couldn't really I think sometimes when you watch games with him, there can be a tendency that he goes missing a little bit. Not missing, but I think it's just maybe what he's being asked to do in terms of the role. And I thought today he was very visible. I saw him a lot, even if I thought that not everything was coming off for him. But I think as we'll come to talk about with Grav, there's what you want to see from these players, especially at this stage, whilst they're still really integrating into the side. I know Cody's been here for longer. Is just to keep plugging away. Not shy away from the ball if things aren't going your way. Try and win it back if you lose it, or if things aren't as neat and tidy as you'd like. So I thought that was good. And yeah, that second half of the first half is a lot more dominance as we're used to. No real threat at all from Norwich. Ibu and Quansah. You mentioned that nice little interplay between them, where I think it was just incredibly calm play, heading the ball back to Ali in the end. To Ibu give Quansah a little bit of an applause. It's just, again, looks incredibly composed. And on to another youngster, I think Bradley, I'd share in your fan club. I think it's been remarkable, really, in terms of his arrival into the team and just how well he's done in so many aspects of his game since he's come into the first team. I think maybe it came as a shock to people who've never watched him play at all before, but the tenacity of his game, the way in which he's doesn't shirk a challenge at all, is always in for it, pressing well, sensing the opportunity to win the ball back or be a bit more proactive, a bit aggressive to push the ball and win it back high up, which is of course wonderful for us in those counter-attacking moments. But for the goal itself, he obviously wins the ball back, quick 1-2, nice little pass over to Nunez, and you've got Ian Wright there in the stands. You've got Robbie Fowler in the stands next to him as well, and both of whom have been asked to talk about Darwin this season. And again, every goal for Darwin is always a positive thing. And again, I thought that neat and tidy finish, passing it into the corner of into the side netting, maybe didn't have too much time to think about it, which is can sometimes be good for him. But I thought actually it was a methodical, good finish. Yes, against lower league opposition, but every goal for him, every ounce of confidence we can give to that guy is going to be really important. But I was looking at Dan Canuck because he's a big member of the Conor Bradley fan club, and I think he's saying that it's been 3.5 games for Bradley, 51 duels, 13 dribbles, 7 key passes, 3 big chances created, 2 assists in that as well. If you saw those figures and saw Trent's name, next to them as well, you wouldn't bat an eyelid. You think, that's what that guy does. I think he's had a really impressive start to life in the Liverpool first team, of course, because we've needed him to. But I'm really, really impressed by that guy, and think there's a high future for him.
All the best to this Alexander Arnold bloke trying to get back in the team. I don't like his chances.
Imposter.
We should have mentioned at some point, of course, that today's game was refereed by Sam Barrett, with Mark Perry and Mark Stevens as their assistants. Pawson was the fourth official, and Tim Robinson on VAR, with little Stuart Little Atwell on support VAR. I have to say that overall, bar the usual example of good process lads when they should have given a penalty, it was pretty inoffensive, so that's why I haven't mentioned them. We'll just leave them to themselves. Of course, feel free if you take umbrage at anything that I didn't. Karl, let's start the second half. You and I will go up as far as the hour mark, where they make a couple of changes. And if we have a look at ourselves, we come out unchanged, and within a minute or so, Cody Gakpo's back having shots blocked from point blank range, and Darwin has a back post header cleared, and this is all within, I think, 2 minutes of the second half. By 48, Sarah registered a long range, low rasping dig to put something in their stats column on 50 minutes. Great possession play by the Reds. Curtis Jones curled his own powerfully hit shot wide of the top corner, and this is where I was surprised. Apparently this did go to VAR. There was not one but a double handball just in the lead up to the goal, which is how the commentary team at least explained why there was nothing made of it. My only problem with that is we always have to take their word for it, and quite often they are fibbing. But we are 3-1 up on 52 minutes, and it is Jota. He tried this exact shot 3 more times, at least twice in the closing period of the game, and made it hopeless bags of it. But this was an absolutely gorgeous finish. It was Curtis Jones who cut in deep in our half, hit a speculative ball forward towards Jota, who was making this run 1v1 with the centre half, and when the centre half could only kind of do a dome bouncing header back towards his own goal, as the ball bounced, it's Jota, unsurprisingly. We saw what he did reacting to his shot the last day and hitting home the rebound. He is the first to react to that ball, and as it bounces, he doesn't let it come up very high, and he whacks a beautiful half volley across the face of goal and into the far corner. It's just beautifully executed. And at that point, we bring in some reinforcements in the form of Virgil van Dijk, Andy Robertson and Dominic Szoboszlai, which I think we can all agree is quite wonderful. But again, Kloppo isn't taking off the nippers. He's taking off Ibu, Curtis and Joe Gomez. I would imagine that means Joe Gomez obviously will start against Chelsea. Robbo not quite there yet, but lovely to see him back in and at it. Lovely to see Dom Szoboszlai back involved, and obviously when you can bring on 3 substitutes of that calibre, things are looking reasonably well. Gravenberch has a shot that probably worried the firmament on 58 minutes, and then they make some changes on the hour mark with Sorensen, Mainz and Ida coming in for Hanley, Barnes and Hernandez. Just in terms of that opening 15 minutes or so, there's quite a bit went on there, and I do want to let you talk about the shuffle and the changes and what Klopp did and why you think he did it.
I'm going to give you a very small and utterly irrelevant bit of trivia there first, but it tickled me when it happened. So that treble substitution, something that I've never seen before, and actually is an odd one in terms of numbers. 3 subs come on, 4 captains came on. I've never seen 3 captains all subbed on at the same time before, but Virgil is obviously ours and Netherlands, Andy Robbo is Scotland's, and Dominic Szoboszlai is Hungary's. So there you go. That's the strength of our bench today. Can't really complain at Norwich losing when we can do that kind of thing, I suppose. For the actual part of the match, I mean, we started quite well, but I thought that second half, it kind of looked like we'd come out to play a little bit. There was, some nice little movements and some very confident footwork, and the movement was really, really good. Rasping, I think, is the right decision or descriptive word for the Sarah effort. I thought that one had buried in the bottom corner, to be honest. I thought that was very, very in, but thankfully not. And the only other thing I would a little bit laughed at, I might be wrong, I think it was Gibson who made the header for Diogo Jota's goal. And if so, I think it was the exact same shape that he threw for both headers, the one he scored and the one that he's teed up. I might have got the wrong centre back for that one, though, so if I have, I apologise to him. But yeah, Jota I thought was really, really good today, to be honest. His movement was just brilliant. He was all over from right, central, left channel. His one-touch movement was really good. His link play was good. Obviously, this was the best of his shots by quite a distance, but it just spoke to the confidence that he has. There was no letting it bounce or getting it on his right foot or trying to reshape his body or whatever. He just hit it back of the net, and he has been in really, really important form recently. Again, with Salah out, with Gakpo not anywhere near the level that he's capable of, it's important that a couple of other players stepped up, and Jota definitely has.
Hi everyone. This month the channel is supporting a local charity based in Edinburgh called Steps to Hope. Steps to Hope helps support people who are experiencing homelessness and addiction. The founder of the charity, Richard Roncero, is currently doing a Sleep Rough campaign where he is sleeping rough on the streets in 8 different cities for 8 weeks. Please like, share and follow the Facebook page, and if you can, donate. Thank you.
It's so good to see another game pass where we get a goal for Jota and a goal for Nunez, and both of them wonderfully taken, and the guys maintain this rhythm. We can talk all we like about how resilient both lads are psychologically and how they won't get their heads down, they'll keep showing up, but you really do have a limit to that type of thing if you're missing, and it's just great to see the two lads in the goals just when we need them. And Harry, to pick up where we left off there, myself and Karl, soon after the substitutions for Norwich, we put some great pressure on. Darwin had a shot which was deflected over for a corner. From that corner on 62 minutes, we go 4-1 up. It's Virgil van Dijk. Dom Szoboszlai hits an out-swinging ball. Virgil makes a couple of lateral movements, frees himself up in a bit of space and heads powerfully from quite some distance. Actually, he's backing away to get the little bit of space for himself, so it's probably about 10 yards of a header at least, and bombs it home. It's absolutely beautiful. There's nothing quite like a Virgil van Dijk goal, and all we'd like to do is see far more of them. But there are nights, where he's just, I think it depends on the opposition. They just get it into their heads and they don't know what to do. And he just has that sort of capacity to win everything. And that was a beautiful example of just that. So we're 4-1 up and the game is over at that point. On 64 minutes, as if to just rub salt in the wounds, we bring on Trent Alexander-Arnold to pull a few strings from midfield, and Darwin Nunez is taken off it. And I think, that's probably the right move. Either himself or Jota needed to be hooked with the couple of big games we've got in the league coming up. Makes perfect sense to me. But ironically, what happens is that we go and concede. Now, I don't know if there's any much blame to be apportioned here. It is Sainz. He took the ball down quite well. I think it was Quansah who sort of headed the ball up in the air in a defensive manner. Sainz gets to the ball first, takes it down, advances, and as he's advancing, there's like a 1 in a million shot, where you can curl it around the defender and into the back of the net, just inside the post and past the outstretched arms of Alisson. And he does that. I feel very, very churlish, being anything other than complimentary about the goal. Now, I may have missed something, so feel free to talk about that. So we'll just pause it there, actually, because myself and Karl can take the last little run towards 5-2 to finish off, and then I'll come back to you for your final thoughts, and then Karl's. So if you just take that little chunk of the game, which saw us go 4-1 up, and then against the run of play, to say the least, concede.
Yeah, Van Dijk scoring is always fun to see. I think we've talked about sort of obviously the ability he has in the air, and we all would like to see more of those headers go in. Really powerful header, well guided, considering the cross is an outswinger. I think that's Szoboszlai's first assist, I think, from a corner. Actually, I think I saw that. Great. Just like put some more emphatic sort of exclamation point on the performance that the captain comes on to give the fans a bit of a treat for an FA Cup fourth round game, and scores a goal. Really, really does cement our control over that game if it's not clear by that point, which I think it was already. And Trent coming on. Another lift, like I was mentioning, just like your mind starts to drift back to this broader context we keep talking about. And yeah, good to see him back on. We were all quite upset when he did go down with an injury, and we knew we were going to miss him for a few games because he was in phenomenal form. So it's great to have him back, especially ahead of this run where we want to make it even more emphatic that we are the league leaders, and we have more reinforcements coming back. And if you thought we were tough to deal with in this period whilst we've been playing without 10 players or whatever, we're going to be even tougher to play once we have so many of them back. So great to see him back on the pitch. And the Signs goal, I think wasn't too upset by that. I think we've seen in the past Van Dijk backing off in those situations, because 9 times out of 10 you do back Alisson to save shots from distance like that. It needs to be something quite special to beat him. When I looked at it on the replay, I thought, is that special enough? To beat the likes of Alisson. I was maybe talking about how high it was, but he was hit hard around the defender. Maybe caught him a little bit off guard, and if we're going to concede that goal, if we're going to see Alisson concede a goal from long distance, I'm happy for it to be in garbage time against Norwich in the cup when the game is already quite clearly won. So Signs gets his wonder goal or whatever at Anfield. He beats Alisson, but I'm glad it just happened here instead of in the league, in a game or in a situation that really mattered. So not too bothered by that. I didn't see anything particularly. I'm sure there's stuff we could have done better to close him down. But so sometimes you have to just applaud the quality of the strike, I think, in that situation. I thought it was by that stage you can see that we've got complete control of the game if we ever lost it for any moments anyway in the game, and with those players, the returning players on the pitch, everybody wanted to get a touch of the ball, pass it around, try different things. Everybody quite clearly having a lot of fun, which I think is always good to watch a team having fun with their football. I also enjoy watching teams having no fun with their football. That's why I occasionally check out Man United just to see what that looks like. Come on, Newport! A gang of lads who just hate playing together most of the time, it looks like. These guys love playing together, so it's just a nice knockabout.
A nice knockabout is right. And of course, when it comes to concession of goals, context is everything. Harry, I'll be back to you to get your kind of wrap-up thoughts in a sec. And Karl, why don't we take a run towards the end of the game here? Bradley was rating again in 70 minutes, and at that point I've just had to note down that this guy is absolutely fantastic. Just genuinely wonderful attitude, and it's not just about being a game lad. He has ability by the bag full as well. JOTA headed a tough opportunity wide off a Trent ball in on 74. Trent starting to swan about in the midfield area and pull a few strings. On 77, Luis Diaz comes on from McConnell, who had been down, to be fair, with what looked like cramp just beforehand. On 78, JOTA, then Gravenberch, then JOTA again had 2 shots saved and then blocked respectively. They bring on Gibbs and Janulis, I think, for Fasnick and McCallum. And on 87 minutes, Dom Szoboszlai cut in from the right on his left foot, has a dig, keeper gets down to save it. Trent has a long range hit parried on 88 minutes, and JOTA has the first of those similar attempts to hit the half volley on his left foot and skies it. 1 minute later, exactly the same thing happens again. Jota's in exactly the same position. The ball bounces, he hits it, and again he skies it. 5 minutes are added, and the only thing of note really that happens in those 5 minutes is that we get a fifth goal. Jota does put in a cross to Cody central, but he was kind of smothered on 91. And then right to death, I think it might have gone into the 96th minute, we do go 5-2 up. And it is Gravenberch who, like, I just keep wanting him to just turn into this thing that he seems to have in his locker. But he just was constantly being, if not monstered, at full stretch in a way that I think anyone who's ever played the game at any level will understand. When you're not quite at it and you're trying your best to get to the level everybody else is around you, you're constantly a bit short when it comes to tackles. You're a bit hurried when it comes to your passing and stuff like that. And we can see the ability in this kid. And we shouldn't have to keep pointing out that we can see the ability in the kid. We'd like to see him, perhaps, I would at least, use the patently obvious physicality that he has to not be always second when it comes to duels, and that's what it appears to be. This is eye test stuff. Some stats guys may come and make a liar out of me. I'm just saying what I can see during the game. It was a little bit frustrating, but just delighted for the fella that right at the death, and of course it's kind of, all eyes are on him then at the end, and it's what people remember. It's your last impression, so fair play. And I'm hoping this has a very galvanizing effect, because Diaz was brilliant. One of those little pieces of little back flick control, drives in from the left-hand side, pings the ball across where Bradley is waiting yet again to provide the assist, a kind of a volleyed cross, pings it right into the mixer, and there is Gravenberch to meet it at the back post with a header. You got to say the cross is driven into the deck by Bradley, and it hops up, and Gravenberch it does brilliantly to meet it there and finish and get his header on target. It's 5-2, which I think, Karl, to be fair, is a far more accurate reflection of how the game went scoreline wise. We saw Klopp lovingly rubbing his pal's beard there at the end in consolation, but the Norwich gaffer could not be anything other than holding his hands up and saying, yeah, we were actually played off the park today. 5-2, I think, did us justice. That last part of the game, Karl, what do you want to mention about it?
I think something I've mentioned before, but it's just really, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to fucking laugh at United have just conceded again against Newport, so it's 2-2 there now. So.
I love this.
You shouldn't try not to laugh, Karl.
I should. Yeah, no, never mind. We can't all go through it the first time of asking. But anyway, here we go. The thing that I really like about this team when we are winning, and when we're winning comfortably games, is that late on in matches we just seem to do like the same thing. Obviously sometimes you've got to know when to manage the game and keep hold of the ball and play nicely and keep possession and just bide your time and even run down the game, even if it's a bit boring. But sometimes we just keep doing the same thing in terms of attacking and the same patterns. And in a game like this where it's cup, or you've got certain players in the team who haven't been recently, or people come back from injury like today, that sort of thing, it's really good to just see us keep going and keep going and keep going and keep attacking. Like, we could have scored 3-4 in the last 15 minutes of the game, probably, like with a bit better finish or a bit more fortune or slightly more incisive pass, like really, really good, clear opportunities. We still could have scored enough in that period of the match to win another game if we needed to. With Gravenberch, what you mentioned, I know what you're saying, and I do kind of agree, but I actually find it more frustrating in Cody Gakpo than in Gravenberch, because I kind of feel like Gravenberch, he doesn't do it all the time in the duels. I agree with what you're saying, but he also has a very different style of trying to do the duels to some of our players. Like, he doesn't directly go into them. A lot of the time I find that he's trying to sort of turn out of them, if you know what I mean, turn away with the ball before he's made the challenge also. Whereas I find with Cody Gakpo, for example, he just doesn't make the challenge whatsoever. And that's what frustrates me a little bit more. So hopefully with Gravenberch it does come, and there's certainly enough technical ability there to suggest that when he puts it together and a few more tactical improvements are made with his game, that there's a really, really good player there for us. So I'm at the minute still willing to give him quite a significant amount of rope, especially given the lack of game time that he's had over the last sort of 18 months, really. But for that reason, I think it was good to leave him on the pitch. I'll be honest, I got a little bit carried away with myself. Was it Gravenberch who was at the far post for that whole sort of near goal that we had, sort of a mix-up with Jota having a shot and the keeper making a save, and then I think it was Gravenberch.
Yeah, he was the second effort there. Yeah, he was the second effort.
I nearly lost my head there. I thought that was Joe Gomez from 2 yards out, so I thought that I forgot he'd been subbed like half an hour early, sort of thing. So there was that little bit for me there. Bradley right wing was an interesting little wrinkle in the latter part of the game, obviously, but he'd been stationed more or less there anyway. So again, good for him to get significant end product with 2 assists. Could have been more. But yeah, just a very, very pleasing all-round finish to the game in terms of the performance, the tempo, getting the injured players back onto the pitch, everybody really positive about where the ball goes. Diaz looking really sharp, like you say, a good few touches. So I don't think really we could have many complaints at all from today.
For sure. If there's anything left wrap-up wise you want to mention, some stats, anything else, we'll come back to you for that and various plugs for what will be no doubt a busy week ahead for you. And Harry, I'll do exactly that with yourself now. Just your closing thoughts on the game overall, anyone you want to single out, anything you want to mention, and do let us know what's coming up from you during the week.
Lots of encouraging performances, really. But I think Curtis Jones, I think the way in which he's grown into I'd say one of the first names on the team sheet now, and the way in which you can see the trust everybody has for him. Also, I think it's just a wonderful example to people like Bradley, to people like McConnell, that they can look at him and see, it's been tough. He's had to work at it, but he's gotten into the position where he's now regular and essential to sort of how we play at the moment. And I think it's not just the academy lads. I think it's going to be really important for people like Grav, who we're just talking about, who, given the age, right? You look at these, he can look at Curtis. I know they've done some work together. Cody as well, clearly a good relationship there. The way in which he's thriving. I got to see some quotes from Klopp afterwards. If Curtis Jones can learn defending, then anybody can learn defending. He's in a great moment, super important, great player, but also huge role model. There you go for the academy boys. So I think it's clearly not been all smooth sailing for Curtis in terms of him figuring out what he needed to do to get into this position where he is now. You look at it and think, well, we're so much better with Curtis Jones on the pitch. But is a good example, right? That anybody can achieve it. And we just talk about Grav, and there's loads of physical, raw talent there to work with. So if we can just get him settled and comfortable and understanding what he has to do, and the fact that if he does it, he'll be in the team every week. If he can pull it off, I think that's going to be an exciting development to watch. And some more stuff. I mean, I think 4 out of the 5 goals obviously set up by academy players today, which is lovely. Nice reception for Robbo coming back from a long layoff as well. And I just saw some stuff from Klopp really here at the end of the game, where he's talking about the atmosphere and how it really gave everything he wanted him to see, and saying, I mean, you could see actually as he was walking off, he was getting a little bit, misty, and he said it's emotional, but I have to pull myself together. I received all of those messages. Obviously, I'm not made of wood. I told people to stop singing my song in games, and so it's good that they obviously stopped listening to me already. And we mentioned 60 seconds into the game, and that song came out. So just a real feel good performance, I think, and choosing to take all the positives out of it, because there were so many, and it just fills you with great confidence for the games to come. And there's 2 biggies, obviously, so there'll be rival recons from me for both of those games. I'm recording the Chelsea one actually shortly after we speak here, so that'll be out soon for the game on Wednesday. And then there will also be a rival recon ahead of that trip to the Emirates next Sunday, as well as listeners will know, an important fixture for the club, but more importantly for myself and my family. Really need the Reds to do the job there.
No pressure, lads. Just don't let Harry down, for Christ's sake. Excellent. We will look forward to hearing stuff from you as per usual, Harry and Karl. Just to finish the show with yourself, then, any last thoughts and point us in the direction of where we can get our Matchett on during the week?
I'll go in reverse order just for a bit of fun. I will have obviously Scouted with Dave and Guy. I think we'll probably try and do that tomorrow if we're all available for the Chelsea game in midweek. I will then be at Arsenal at the weekend, so we'll have another scouted for that, obviously, and some Raw action. I think one of us is on that, at least in midweek. Written stuff, there'll be Liverpool-Chelsea stuff in the build-up, and hopefully a Jarrell Quansah piece coming as well. For the match stuff, I got a couple of stats, obviously. I'll just rattle through the best of them, actually. But we've mentioned before in games we've had every single outfield starter either shooting or setting up a shooting chance during the match. We came quite close to that today. Just the centre-backs were lacking in that regard. Quansah and Konate. Everybody else either took a shot or set up a shooting chance for everybody else. King of those was Jota's 7 shots taken, obviously. Szoboszlai made 4 key passes despite only coming on just before the hour mark. Set pieces obviously playing a part there. One fairly noteworthy thing, I was going to ask you both about it, but if there's not much time, fair enough. Quansah has his birthday tomorrow. What does he turn? Is it 21? I can't even remember. Today was his 17th match, right? And obviously they've all come this season. So I was just thinking in terms of the parallels, and I'll build on this for the article that I've just mentioned that I'll write. But a couple of seasons ago, we had Reece Williams, who was obviously thrown in a similar sort of situation because of injuries and availability and all the rest of it. He played 19 games for us that season. So just, to sort of compare what we think of performance levels, suitability for the future, the ability for this team, that kind of thing. I mean, it's very easy to be revisionist about one player who's not doing so well at the minute and, recency bias for the guy who is doing well. But I think, stylistically, Quansah's obviously a really, really good fit for Liverpool. Reece Williams probably was as well, but tactically, I think Quansah's miles ahead. Pace-wise and agility-wise, he is miles ahead. There's no doubt about that. So just wanted a little comparison maybe from Harry even over how you figure those two young defenders did and are doing now and for the future as well.
I'd agree, Karl. Yeah, I think it's interesting comparison. I think the composure. I don't remember Reece Williams ever looking this composed. However, Reece Williams was very often playing next to Darth's son. So like he didn't really have. I think we do have to acknowledge the benefit that Quansah has had largely playing next to either Ibu or Virgil. I think right. So it's that's nice. I'd like to play next to Virgil. I wouldn't look as good, but I think I'd still probably should give it my best go. But I think it's just it just shows you, right, sliding doors moment. If Reece Williams comes into a squad where yes he needs to play because there's injuries or whatever, but he plays next to Virgil or Ibu for an extended period of time, does his career go in a slightly different direction? But yeah, it's an interesting one.
And final one for me, their goalkeeper, who obviously made quite a few good saves, George Long. He was quite a highly regarded keeper back in the day, obviously when he was a young stopper, and there were not loads of English goalkeepers coming through. So I remember watching him right back at the beginning of his career with Sheffield United. So I had a quick look. He was part of the England squad at the 2013 Under-20 World Cup. So you just get one guess each. There were 2 Liverpool players in that squad. So it was in 2013. So if either of you can have a guess and see if you can pick which Liverpool players were there with him.
Oh, it was a youth squad, you said?
Yeah, Under-20 World Cup in 2013. So they were all 20 years of age.
Gomez.
No.
Are they still amongst the Liverpool squad?
Very definitely not.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So this is Under-20 World Cup, which was 11 years ago. So they were 19 and 20 years old then.
Right.
Oh, then. Okay, right. That makes sense. So 29-year-olds ex-Liverpool.
Who's the guy who was labelled as the next Sterling, but it never really happened when he went to Bournemouth and then had some issues? Jordan Nye. Was he one of them?
No, he wasn't.
Okay.
I think this might have been.
What was
the squad around them? Of the most notable names included Harry Kane, John Stones.
Was it Lallana, Karl?
No, Lallana's not there.
Too
no.
old. Young.
These are actually 2 players who came through Liverpool's youth system.
Oh, I've misunderstood. Go on, put us out of misery.
Yeah.
John Flanagan and Conor Cody.
Good Lord.
Wow.
Good Lord.
They were the most successful members of that team in the end.
No. Yeah.
It is quite lovely to think about how far things have come on, with the best one in the world, and with all the comparative respect applied to the names you mentioned there. It is quite interesting to see how far things have moved on and how good the future looks under the last few months of Jürgen Klopp and whoever the hell takes over. And you should be making it your business to listen to whatever Karl Matchett's doing, whatever Harry Sethi's doing during the week. The lads have given you a nod there as to where to go. You should also be excited about the fact that it is actually Newport who are still attacking at 2-2 against Manchester United. These are all wonderful things. As the lads mentioned, there will be lots coming up from the channel, and specifically for Raw. In the next one, Guy is doing me the service and courtesy of stepping in. He'll be alongside Dave and Karl for the Chelsea game. They'll be back in situ for Arsenal, and we don't have our schedule and roster done for that yet, so I can't tell you any more about it. But on a good day, and a very good omen and a very good beginning to the beginning of the end of the Klopp reign, everything remains possible. The Reds march on. From Karl, from Harry, from producer Guy, and myself, Trev Downey. Mind yourselves.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.